So I got my evaluation. It was, in general, very positive. It was extremely positive, actually. They were aware of how hard I worked. They were aware of the amount of kayaking and therefore water experience that I have coming in. But they did not assess me to work this skill type. So I will, well, let's hold that. Let's talk about why and what they did offer me in the next video. We are back in the van. It is the end of December. We are on a extended road trip with the doggies and some coffee. Sorry, I should hold that the other way. And some coffee. So let's talk about why I didn't get assessed to be a NOLS sailing instructor and what they did offer me. Let's go. Okay, so I didn't get assessed to be a sailing instructor for NOLS. That occurred wasn't surprising to me. We will get assessed as ready for hire or not is probably pretty slim. It's a really hard course. As I mentioned earlier, I was surprised that I was invited to take part in the first place. I was thrilled with the experience. Even though it was really hard, it was a very hard course for me, both physically and mentally, which sort of plays into why I didn't get assessed. In general, I was very happy with the course. The level of instruction on a NOLS course, and I'm going to do another video about this, but the level of instruction, the quality of the instructors on a NOLS course is pretty phenomenal. Every time I have interactions with NOLS, other NOLS instructors, people who do it all the time. I should point out, I'm a NOLS field instructor. I worked in the sea kayaking program. I work in the wilderness medicine program, and that I do a lot. I've taught over 125 NOLS wilderness medicine courses, but I've only taught a handful of sea kayaking courses for them, and it was a while ago. I'm thinking lately that I dabble in NOLS field courses. They're really long and they're hard to work if you have a wife and a family and a home and things like that. But I'm always blown away by how good the instructors are. If you teach 30-day long wilderness courses all the time, chances are you're a pretty darn good instructor. And I was blown away with all three instructors. And all of them were different, but all of them brought different things to the table, but they were all great instructors. And I'm going to do a video about NOLS in general down the road a little bit. So I wasn't surprised. I had very little sailing experience, really only a couple of years of sailing experience going in. And I had a great sort of communication with my mentor on the course.
I'm Chris.
But here's why I didn't get assessed. If you look at my assessment sheet, I was performing all of the basic skills adequately. I did everything I needed to do. But the problem was I needed to be thinking about what I needed to do. And in that environment, particularly in that environment, you don't generally have that luxury. And it's why I was so mentally exhausted at the end of the day. My mentor, Chris, was saying that I needed to get to the point where it was second nature, where I knew what I needed to do and how to make it happen without having to think it through. And I was never there. And I respect that. I think that that's a valid point. And as I mentioned, I'm not surprised. I've had great communication with my mentor, with Chris, since I got back. We've exchanged a bunch of emails, initially thanking me for making the video, and also expressing his concern that I didn't have a good day that last day. And I should have had a better day. He literally said, I thought that day went well. And so I think part of that also is the bar I set for myself is generally pretty high, and I wasn't performing at the level that I wanted to be performing on that last day. Then we talked about sort of my next steps, what I need to be doing. And honestly, I should have done this on the course, but my brain was fried. It just wasn't happening. So he had a lot of great options for me for next steps. A lot of them I'm already doing. So he suggested doing an ASA course, which I've already done. He suggested doing a bareboat charter, which I've thought about doing. And so I might do the ASA bareboat charter course. He mentioned that I should be doing like reading on the outside, which I am already doing. But he had some good suggestions for some other things that I should do. Oh, he mentioned that I should take people sailing who have less experience with me. This is something that I'm doing and something that I'm planning on doing in the future and something that I really enjoy. And it's something that I do with paddlers. And that is when you get to the point where you're pretty good, teach people how to do it, because that reinforces to you, A, that you know what you're doing, and B, it helps you sort of clarify the thought process of what it is you're doing. So I thought that was really good. He also suggested that I sign up to be a delivery crew member, which is another thing I've thought about but haven't done. And I'm toying with, some people have said just go to Facebook. There's a place there where people list that they need help. Another is crewfinder.com. If you have experience with either of those, let me know what your best sort of options are for finding that sort of opportunity. Then he gave me a list of specific sailing skills that I should be working on and thinking about, and all of them were on point. It was a great email. It was super helpful. I really enjoyed it, and gave me things to work on as I go forward. Okay, so that's why I didn't get assessed. Essentially, while the basic skills were there, I don't feel like I mastered them. They didn't feel like I mastered them, and I still needed to think about it, and they wanted me to be in a better place. I mentioned, this is sort of a side note, I mentioned to Chris at one point, what is the hardest NOLS course skill type to get assessed for? And I thought it might be mountaineering, which he was also a mountaineering instructor, or is a mountaineering instructor as well as a sailing instructor. But he said it was sailing. And so NOLS has 3 levels of instructor: I level, the PL level, the CL level. I won't get into what those mean right now because it's not that important. And sailing is the only course type that does not run with the lower I level instructors. Everyone has to be a PL level or middle level instructor to work those courses. In terms of my skill set as a NOLS instructor, they put me at that PL level, but not at the sailing skill level for PL level, if that makes sense. So my teaching skills, things like that, were all at the PL level, but my sailing skills were not at the PL level. And because of that, this is what they did offer me. They offered me to work a Mexico kayaking course I'm already at the PL level as an instructor, but they need to confirm my kayaking skills. I feel 2 ways about this. The first is I was a NOLS sea kayaking instructor. In 2006, I did my instructor course. I worked in 2006 and 2008, and I think 2009. And so they know that I had that skill level then. Obviously, it is conceivable that I have let my skills deteriorate in that time, when in fact my skills are far better than they were in 2006, 2007, 2008. And so they gave me an opportunity to work a course in Mexico to get checked out as a sea kayak instructor, which unfortunately the dates I couldn't make work. And so my other option, which I have signed up for, is to do a kayaking seminar, which is a 10-day or a 9-day course back in Alaska, which makes my little heart flutter in happiness, just to get checked out on the kayaking stuff. And then I'm cleared to teach kayaking courses. And so I thought that was super nice of them. They didn't sort of leave me hang out to dry. They gave me an opportunity to slide back into NOLS, if not in sailing, then in kayaking, which is honestly my first love. And at some point, I can continue to work to get reassessed as a sailing instructor. Maybe in a year or 2, I think I might go back, and I'll do a sailing instructor seminar to get checked out for the sailing aspects. And so that's where we stand. I'm very happy with the way everything turned out. I've applied for the kayaking seminar in Alaska, and we'll know mid-February whether or not I got that. But I'm also planning a personal trip. Either way, I'm going kayaking in Alaska this summer, and I'm super excited about that. I've got a bunch of other things coming up. If you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe. I really appreciate you following me. This has been a super fun journey of doing NOLS, and I'm going to talk more about just sort of why I like NOLS so much and why it's been so good for me in the outdoors. You should consider doing a NOLS course if you want to ramp your skills up in the outdoors. But as I said, I'm going to do a video about that. So hit like, hit subscribe. A lot of stuff coming. I'll see you outside. So my plan was to talk about how I didn't get assessed, but we ran into some trouble, which is like, we were in, where were we? West Virginia, when I recorded that intro, and now I'm in Amarillo, Texas, and we were headed to Fort Collins, Colorado, and a huge snowstorm came down out of Canada and the Pacific Northwest, and so we arced pretty far south, but as you can see, didn't quite get away from it. Oh, I forgot to mention, the heat went out in my van. It seems to be back on now, but the only heat we've got overnight is an electric heater. So that's where we are. That's what's going on.